First of all, thank you everybody for coming. I think that this is going to be incredibly valuable. My goal is to just provide some information to hopefully help you get started in protesting your property taxes. And this is going to be pretty high level, so we're going to try to get through it really quickly, and bear with me. But real quick, my name is Truth Clark. I am not a webinar expert, but did you see that cool little fancy transition in there? My name's Truth Clark. I'm the team leader of Elevate Realty Team. My wife and I are co-team leaders, and we have an incredible team. And our goal is to deliver as much value as possible. And one of the ways that we do that is through education. And what I'd like to do today is educate you a little bit on the process for protesting your property taxes. And now this can seem a little bit daunting, but it's okay. I'm going to walk you through everything that I know. The other piece to that is a full disclaimer. I am not a property tax expert. I just have been in the industry. I have been protesting my property taxes for years, and just want to share my experience as well as what I know about how that process goes. Additionally, if you're watching this, you're probably one of our private clients, and we'll be sending out some resources for you today along with this recording. So hopefully you're here live, but if you're not live, then you don't get to experience all the liveness of it, but you'll be able to watch this recording and gain all of the information as well. So with that being said, today we're going to go through why you should protest your property taxes. Just kind of we've been hearing a lot of talk about it, a lot of misinformation. So I'm going to clarify a couple of things. We're going to talk about how you prepare, some of the things that you're going to need in order to do this, how to file your property taxes, and understanding that this is a very timely webinar. You have about 15 days to complete the filing of your property tax protest. So we're going to talk about how to do that. In the event that you submit your property tax protest and the number that they give you back you don't like, and you have to go to an appraisal review board hearing. We're going to talk about what that looks like because I've been there as well. And then we'll go into some other options that you have for protesting your property taxes. And then we'll talk a little bit about exemptions, because when you think about your property taxes in totality, your exemptions play a major role as well in keeping those property taxes down. But we will go through all of that. Why should you protest your property taxes? Now, I might zoom through some of this stuff, but the goal is to keep it as short as possible and as informative as possible. But why should you do it in the first place? I remember when I bought our first house here, not before, because I didn't even know about protesting them before I got to San Antonio. But when I bought my first house in San Antonio and I got the property tax notice, I had no idea what to do. I thought that that's just what it is, that's what I have to pay now. Like there's nothing you can do about it. But then I learned that you could protest it, but then I felt, why would I protest it? It sounds weird. It sounds like something that we shouldn't be doing. It's not going and grabbing some picket signs and standing outside of the appraisal, district office or anything like that. It's not actually as crazy or as daunting as it sounds. And additionally, you got to understand how these property, tax values or assessments work. When the appraisal review board determines your value, when the appraisal district determines your value, it's based off of what's called a blanket assessment. And that blanket assessment is a generalized valuation of your property based off of a number of factors like your bedrooms, your bathrooms, the square footage. They'll get within that, that same square footage. And they don't actually know the intimate details about your house. Only you know that. And the way it's been expressed to me from the appraisal review board is that the expectation is that if that value is not correct, the expectation is that the homeowner will step up and make it known via property tax protest. And so it's a welcomed activity, as a matter of fact, by the appraisal district. And when you go through this entire process, they actually make it pretty simple for you. If you don't do a property tax protest, you're essentially leaving money on the table that you otherwise could have been saving. But if you just go through the process, then you might be saving a lot more money than you think. As an example, on my house 2 years ago, I went through the entire process from start to finish with the appraisal review board and got it done, and decreased my property tax bill, or my property tax assessment specifically, by about $80,000. Now, looking at my tax rate at about 1.8% or something like that, we're looking at about $1,400 annually that I saved from the tax protest. And if that's the case, then that means that, monthly I'm saving $100 and something in my monthly payment. Now that's substantial, that's significant, right? And the only way that you can accomplish that is by actually protesting your property taxes. And there's some other ways to decrease it, and we'll talk about that as well. Let's get to how to prepare your property taxes. I'm sorry, not to prepare your property tax, your property tax protest. Now, when you're doing your property tax protest, I know that a lot of times it might be difficult, it might be challenging to think that you are actually competing against a certified appraiser who is going to be going back and forth with you to try to keep that property tax value high, and you're trying to keep it low. But there's a few things that you can do to prepare for it. One of them is you can reach out to an expert like me and ask for just a quick valuation of your home. It doesn't have to be anything significant. It doesn't have to be super deep, but just something from a credible expert to help support your opinion. You can use that as evidence. You can even go look on Zillow and look at the value of different homes in your area, and then start identifying all of the problems that are associated with your house. So let's say on my house, my deck. Now, quick caveat. To the appraisal district, you want your house to look absolutely awful, right? And that does not actually affect the value of your home. Now, one quick major point that you've got to understand is that you have your property tax assessment, assessed value, and then you have your actual market value of your home. Now, the market value of your home is going to be determined by the market, right? You don't actually change that except by forced appreciation or depreciation, adding something to your house, renovating something in your house, or anything like that. Now, the assessed value is simply what the appraisal district assesses your home at. So if they assessed my home at $200,000, but my home is worth $400,000, and I go sell it for $400,000, that assessment doesn't mean anything. It doesn't hold any weight. It is not even visible to anybody, and unless they go research the assessed value, but it does not affect a property tax, a property appraisal. It doesn't affect the sale of your home or anything. So don't be afraid that if you get that value low, that it's going to affect your actual home value. It doesn't affect your home value. So going back to how to prepare, you're going to want to take pictures. You're going to want to take pictures of any discrepancies, any deficiencies in your home, and you're going to want to document any type of damage to the, like the fence, or hey, my AC, my HVAC unit is extremely old and it's about to go out. My water heater is leaking. The home is in complete disrepair. It would cost X amount of money just to get it able to list on the market. My baseboards need to be replaced. Any and everything that you can think of that there's a problem with. Even down to potential foundation issues. And if you have any issues that, like your roof is bad, you can have a roofer come out and take a look and take some pictures and send you an estimate. You can have a foundation expert come out and take a look, and even if it's just settling and it's not actually a foundation crack or anything like that, have them give you an estimate of how much it would cost to do the preventative work, to the things that they identify. So as much as you can get as possible, that's what you need to do. The other thing is, in your preparation, you will be receiving a notice of appraised value. This is going to come in the mail, and it should be here already. It should be out by April 15th or beginning of April. And if you have this, then if you look on the kind of right hand side, I've got some of this stuff blurred because it's actually mine. there's an e-file pin with a bunch of X's. Now this is the electronic copy that I gathered offline, but your one that you get in the mail is going to actually have the e-file pin. And that e-file pin is going to be critical in doing the online application. Now you can do everything through mail or in person, but the process is a lot more complicated. It just takes a lot more time. Now, if you want to do that, I'll give you the link to get onto the BCAD portal and work it out that way as well. But if you have this letter, then you can take that e-file pin. If you don't have this letter, the good news is that you can email cs@bcad.org, or you can call a number that I'll share with you shortly, and they will help walk you through the process of getting a new pin. But you're going to need that pin in preparation, so that way you can set up an account, and I'll walk you through what setting up that account looks like as well. But once you have all of that, you have your evidence and your photos and any kind of repairs that need to be done. You're going to gather all of that information and have it prepared. You're going to take that pin, you're going to create an account at BCAD Online, and then we're going to proceed to file. So, how do you file? Now that you have all of this information, you've got to set up some accounts. You're going to go to BCAD Online, or you can go to bcad.org and then navigate through there. I'll walk you through all of that. But the filing process is not that complicated, but let me walk you through a quick timeline of what that looks like. So by May 15th, you have to have submitted your property tax protest. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to have submitted all of your documentation and have the final say or anything like that, but you have to go to the website and you have to file start to file your property tax protest. If you don't do it by April 15th, then you miss the deadline, and I don't believe that they will allow you to do it. But if you just go start it right now before May 15th, then you'll be good to go. And this process can take a little while depending on whether or not you agree with the settlement that they give you, the settlement offer, or if you have to actually go to the appraisal review board. Now, for me, I'm going to be out of town for a while, and I don't know that I'll be able to go to the appraisal review board, so I might have to take the settlement offer. But we'll talk about those options as well. All right, cool. So, in order to actually file, now I'm just going to go through this. Hopefully this makes sense to you. But if you go to bcad.org, it'll take you to the online, to the actual BCAD website. And then when you click on online services, it'll give you this link. And if this link takes you to the BCAD Online, and you can just go to bcadonline.org as well. But if you just go to bcad.org, it's the appraisal district's primary website. You can get through there as well. So you click on this link, and then you go to, it'll take you to a login page. Now this is where, if it's your first time logging in, you're going to need that e-file pin. You're going to enter in that e-file pin and your property information, and then it'll have you set up an account. Once you set up an account, then you can log in, and this is going to be where you do a lot of really cool stuff. So like protesting your property taxes or filing for homestead exemption, all of those things are done through this online portal. Now, when you get here, you're going to go to online appeals. Online appeals is where you would do your property tax protest. Online applications is actually where you would do a homestead exemption if you need to do that. Once you click on that, you'll see a big green button that says click here to e-file. They make it really simple, really straightforward, and you're probably like, man, this is really complicated. It's actually not. It's pretty simple. Navigating through this, you almost can't mess it up. Once you're actually done, now this image is popped in there because I did it the wrong way because I'm not an expert at all of this, but once you're all the way done, that's what this is going to look like when it shows that it's been e-filed. But going back, once you click that green button, you're going to get taken to this protest page. Now, here are two things that you really got to do. One, you need to make sure that you click this top little checkbox that says that you're going to do it electronically through the website. And doing it electronically through the website saves you a bunch of time. It makes the process extremely simple. I absolutely recommend doing this. Otherwise, it's going to be a completely different process. Second, you're going to want to check this box down here that says, I would like to request a copy of the evidence which will be used in the hearing. So this is not the time to submit evidence. You are gathering evidence. So if you go to the appraisal review board hearing, they're going to bring their evidence and you're going to bring your evidence. The cool thing about it is that they provide you their evidence. You should provide your evidence so that everybody can look at the evidence and have their cases built up. But you don't actually have to provide your evidence until like very shortly before you get there. And if you provide your evidence, I don't think that they actually look at it anyways. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. So you click that box and then you're going to enter in your justification. Now that justification is going to be a truncated version, a shortened version of all of the things that I talked about earlier. So you would say, I don't believe that the value of my home is XYZ because of this and this and this and this and this and this. This is why I think that my home is actually, worth less. You don't even have to put the number in because you're going to be able to put the number in after the fact, but this is where you would enter in that information. For me, I talked about the quality of my home. I talked about some renovations that were going on that were not finished. I talked about my deck having wood rot and needing a full replacement. I talked about my pool in my backyard, how there's a crack in it and that the value of the pool is actually worth a lot less than what the value that it adds, that it becomes a major expense. And then I talked about my fence. I talked about everything. It made my house sound like it's unlivable practically, but this is all information for them to take and assess your property. None of it's lies. I would absolutely not recommend lying on this at all, but definitely when you're expressing this stuff, you are expressing the very worst aspects of your home. Then you're going to come down here, you're going to click submit. There's actually a checkbox that says I would like to receive updates via text message. I click on that just because I want to know when things happen. Then it's going to ask you for your opinion of value. That opinion of value is going to be based off of, like what I discussed. If I'm providing you my opinion of value or just some comparable homes or something like that, you can pull it from there. Frankly, you could just make something up. You could just submit a low ball. I think that it's really worth $100,000 less than what you think it's worth. And they're going to come back and offer something in their settlement offer, but there's no major science to this that I'm aware of. Like I said, I'm not a property tax expert, but however, I have done this quite a few times. And then you're going to select any kind of, first you're going to explain why you think that it's wrong, that the value is unequal compared to other properties or just incorrect market value. If your justification is that other homes are worth less than that in your area, or if your justification is that like, hey, you just didn't identify those things, you can click that, or you can click both. And then protest options if you apply to any of these, military service member, veteran, anything like that. Once you hit submit, then you're done, and it will populate this on your protest view. So when you log in, you'll see that it's protested, and it'll actually show you the process that it's at, and it's going to be under review for a while. But once you get a settlement offer, it will show up right there. That's where it's going to be. And ultimately, that's the process. Now, like I said, once you get a settlement offer, you can absolutely accept that. I did last year. Because I had a lot of things going on, I did not go to the appraisal review board last year just because I didn't have the time. And also the settlement offer that they offered me was pretty good, right? They decreased it by like $60,000 of what they actually appraised it at or assessed it at. Now, this year it went up quite a bit. It's a pretty substantial amount. So I'm probably going to try to go through the entire process if I can. There's a few different options, but what that means is that I'm going to have to go to the appraisal review board. And when you go to the appraisal review board, it's called a hearing, and it sounds like you're going to court and it's going to be this big old massive thing, super challenging, and there's going to be a judge and all this stuff. But the way that it works is if you don't agree with the settlement, now is when all of the evidence that you've built up comes into play. You're going to email that information. I mean, if they'll send you an email requesting that information first, but you're going to email that information, and they're gonna take all of it, and that'll kind of help pair the situation for you. But then you set up a time. It can be via Zoom, it can be via a phone call, it can be in person, or it can be via an affidavit, which you just kind of write everything and then you send it in, and then they just do the thing themselves. I wouldn't recommend that, just because the way that the process works, it kind of seems like it puts you at a disadvantage if you're not there to make those decisions. But let's say that you go in person, because that's what I've done. If you're in Zoom or in a phone call, it's the same thing, you're just not in person. But when you're in person, you show up. It's scary. You sit in the waiting room. You're waiting to go back to your trial, or your hearing. It feels like a trial. And you go in there, and there's an appraiser that works for the appraisal district. And then there's going to be 3 unbiased parties. And these unbiased parties they're civilians, they are maybe appraisers, they have some experience in that. And they do not work for the appraisal district. They're unbiased, and they're going to be making the final determination. So they ask you, who do you want to present their information first, or their justification first? And obviously, I want them to, so that way I can know what they're going to say, so that way I have something to say about it. And so I say, and the appraisal district can present their evidence first, and then I'll go second. So the appraisal district presents their evidence. It's pretty good. It's pretty compelling. They've actually looked at it and spent their time. And then I present my evidence, and my evidence is like, hey, that's great. That's fantastic that you have all of that. Now, what you don't know is that my house is actually falling apart. The roof actually came off yesterday. But I'll tell them everything that's wrong with my property, and then I'll give them a succinct explanation of why I don't think that it's worth that much. Then what happens is the appraisal district assessor, if you will offer you a new settlement amount, which is typically less than the previous settlement amount. It can seem enticing, and the first time that I went there, I was, pretty impressed. I was like, wow, look at me. I did a good job, in this, that he offered me that. And the presiding official, the unbiased party, asked me if I want to accept that. And being nervous, by the way, I was nervous. I was very nervous. When I went there, I'm a real estate professional, and I was still nervous to go in there. I'm nervous every single time. So, don't be concerned about that. But I asked him, I was like, I've never done this before. What should I do? Should I accept it? And he said, the alternative is that we, the appraisal review board, we decide the value if you don't accept that. And he kind of gave me I don't know if it was a wink or a nod or something, but he was like, I wouldn't, right? And so I didn't accept that. I said, no, thank you. I'll allow you and your team to decide. And they decided, and they dropped it by like another $20,000 or something like that. And so, depending on the situation, you can accept it at any time, but if you keep pushing, then the likelihood of you getting it lower is going to be higher. Now, if you don't like that final number, if you're just like, no, this is terrible, don't accept it, then there are other options. Now, I'm not experienced in those other options, but I can absolutely point you in the right direction of people who are experienced in those other options. They can kind of help guide you. There is another appellate process, and there's also some mediation type thing that you can set up as well. But I haven't had to get to that point. At the end of the day, if I'm that concerned, then I will hire somebody, is my opinion. But you do you, and I will absolutely support you in, whatever it is that you try to pursue. Now, talked about other options. Now, if you want to go through this process alone, that's perfectly fine. I recommend it. I think it's fine, right? But you also can hire a professional to represent you as well. My next door neighbor hired a professional and got his property taxes way low, like way low. I was actually super, super surprised at the value that they were able to get it down to. Now, for me, I look at it like this. I think that a lot of them charge about 50% of whatever they save you, which is great if you're not going to be saving anything. But they charge you that, upon completing that job. So you kind of, you come out of pocket, but then you save it on the back end. But if I take and save, let's say $1,400 or something like that a year, then they take half of that. That means that I would need to make, by myself, I would need to lower it by a little more than $700-800, and I think that I can do that. I don't know if that makes sense, but ultimately, they would have to do twice as good as me at decreasing my property tax bill in order for it to make sense. And I don't think that they can do twice as good as I can. And so that's why I do it myself. But you have your own prerogative. You can do it with somebody else, and I can guide you as well. I don't personally know anybody, but I know a lot of people that do, have guys that they trust, girls that they trust, and I'll point you in that direction if that's what you want to do. We talked about totality of your property taxes, and another major part of your property taxes is going to be those exemptions. Now, the general residence homestead exemption is a key player, is the hot shot in decreasing your property tax liability. Just by applying that general residence homestead exemption, you get 20% off your appraised value off the top. That's huge. That's huge. So let's just say this. If you are in a $300,000 home, that's $60,000 off of the appraised value of your home at a 1 point, something percent of that. I mean, you're saving $900 just by having a homestead exemption. That's substantial. That is in addition to whatever you decrease your property tax bill. So whatever you decrease it to with protesting your property taxes, then take 20% off of that. So it's really good. But the other big major thing that it does is it protects you from an increase of over 10%. So if your property tax value goes up by more than 10%, there is a homestead cap applied. Now, if you go to the BCAD property lookup, which is, you can Google it, just like a BCAD property lookup. It's like bear/trueautomation.com. I can send that link out as well. But if you go there, you can see actually what exemptions are applied and how much money you're saving. So if you look at mine, I'm saving about $2,500 a year in property taxes based off of my homestead exemption alone, just based off of that cap, keeping it from increasing by more than 10%, and also that 20% off the top. So it's significant, right? And so you're definitely going to want to do that. Also, if you're a disabled veteran of any kind, if you're over 65, there's exemptions for that as well. And these exemptions stack up on top of each other. So it's actually really good. It can save you a ton of money. You're going to want to explore all of those. And we talked about a lot of stuff, but everything that I talked about, you can find it on BCAD.org. BCADonline.org is the actual online portal that you can use to file all of that stuff. These email addresses, this email address, cs@bcad.org, that is the email address that you're going to submit anything that you need, any questions or anything like that. That's their customer service. And in my experience, they're not that bad. There's been a lot of pretty terrible customer service experiences with government organizations, but BCAD, they do seem to put forth some effort. It might take a while for them to accomplish something. Like it took them 1.5 years to do my mail-in homestead exemption. That's my fault. I should have done it online. but yeah, absolutely. cs@bcad.org, and then the phone number to reach them. I have not had much trouble getting in touch with them via the phone line, so hopefully you don't either. Now, I know that was a lot of information. I crammed it into 30 minutes. If you have any questions at all, just absolutely reach out. I am more than happy to answer any questions, especially I know that the deadline is coming up, and there's going to be a lot of moving parts. The homestead exemption, one more thing. The homestead exemption, let's go back. Let's pull up the slide because I like doing that. The date to file a homestead exemption for the year the deadline is April 30th. That's literally today. If you're watching this tomorrow, then you missed it, right? But don't worry. That homestead exemption deadline is just to set that deadline in place. What that does is it makes sure that this property tax year, you get that exemption applied, and that comes off of this year's property taxes. Now, if you do it at any time, you can retroactively apply it 2 years back. Is that weird? 2 years back. You can retroactively apply it 2 years back. And when it's retroactively applied, they will literally cut you a check for the money that you should have been saving all that time. That just happened to me a few months ago. It was 2 years. Matter of fact, I filed it. It took them a year. They retroactively applied it for 2 years prior to that. And so if you missed the deadline, not a major concern. You just may have to keep your property or your payments the same as they are until it actually gets applied. Then once it gets applied, then what happens is you call up your mortgage company who services your escrow account likely, and they're going to take a look at your taxes and then re-audit. They're going to audit your payment. That's not a bad thing. They're going to audit your payment, make sure that you're paying the right amount so that way you have enough in your escrow account to pay your property tax bill at the end of the year, because if you have a mortgage, they typically pay your property tax bill. And then they'll make that adjustment to your payment. They'll let you know, and then you're good to go. Now you're saving money. If you have overpaid into your escrow account, that's okay, because they'll make an adjustment the other way. That's your money ultimately. So no stress there. In filing that homestead exemption, like I was telling you, on the online portal, it's super simple. If you do it via the PDF document that's on bcad.org, or you do it by mail, it can take some time. So just be prepared for that. But I think that you guys now have the information that you need to be successful, to successfully go file your property tax protest. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or anybody on my team, and we can guide you in the right direction. But with that, hope you enjoyed this, and feel free to share it with anybody that you think could benefit from it. Deadline's approaching. This information will still be relevant next year. So have a great day. And yeah, see you soon.